Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Who's That Lady Music Show. We have fresh new music on the horizon. And when you think of modern indie folk, we think of Gemma Laurence. So stick around for an exclusive interview and so much more on Who's That Lady Music Show. Hey, Gemma, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Gemma Laurence, singer and songwriter based in New York City. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, likewise. And you know me, I like to get right down into it with the questions. Now tell us where you got your start.
Oh man, I've been writing music for such a long time now. My mom said that I was writing songs in the crib when I was a little kid. But I only really started writing music and pursuing it seriously in college. Started writing songs. I put out my first album in 2019, and now I'm here. And I've been doing solo music for a really long time, and like performing at bars and open mics in New York and stuff. But the pandemic kind of slowed that a bit. But now I'm back. I'm in Bed-Stuy as well.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, I know, Bed-Stuy Squad. And yeah, I've got a band and we're playing shows, and it feels great. Now this album's coming out. It's crazy.
Oh yes, I can't wait to talk more about your new album, Lavender. As a matter of fact, this is your sophomore album, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I put out a record, more of a solo record, in August of 2019, which feels so long ago. Oh my god. But yeah, this is my second one, and it feels like a big departure.
Now tell us more behind the concept of your new album, Lavender.
Yeah, it's I read a lot of books. I'm a big book nerd. I was an English major in college. I love collections of short stories and poetry, and the album's very much inspired by that. I feel like each song kind of exists in its own little world with its own little characters, and some of them kind of interweave into other stories and other songs on the album. Like there's a character, Adrienne, that shows up across the record. And it's just kind of different explorations of my own experiences with, love and my queerness and intimacy and vulnerability and friendship, and all kind of expressed in these nostalgic vignettes, I suppose.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. As a singer and songwriter, what usually comes first, the lyrics or the music?
That's such a good question. Usually the lyrics, actually. I typically write the songs. A lot of these songs on the record kind of started as poems. I journal every day, and so I just kind of string together a lot of images, and then one image, typically residing in a place or in a time or in a memory, comes together, and then I sort of do a string of associations after that. Like there's the first song on the album, Morningside Heights, is like this one memory I have of Morningside Heights, and it's like 4 o'clock, October, golden hour in New York, and I remember this really, really vivid scene of being with somebody at that time, and then I just sort of started free journaling, and then the song came together, and then I wrote this chord progression, and then the song happened in like an hour. So typically starts with the words, but I also like to mess around in open tunings like open D and open C, and a lot of my chord progressions come from just futzing about on the guitar.
It kind of paints a picture. It's interesting you mentioned the opening song. I had a chance to listen to the entire album. Amazing work. Wonderful work. So when you mentioned St. John Divine, I was like, oh, I could picture the location of the church park itself. You're in the north side of Harlem near Columbia University, that whole area, and it's so very picturesque and has that really nice flow to it. So speaking of flow, you have all the elements of country, rock, and modern folk. Who influenced your sound?
Good question. And thank you. I'm glad that you heard all of those things too. I'm definitely inspired by lots of different genres. Some of the biggest inspirations for this album were Adrienne and Big Thief. Love them so much. She's one of my favorite songwriters. I think she's like the best songwriter of our generation, honestly. And yeah, my producer Charlie is like totally into Andrew Sarlow's production, and so he works with Adrienne Lenker, Big Thief, Courtney Marie Andrews. Courtney Marie Andrews' album Wildflowers was a big inspiration for this album as well, or Old Flowers. And Yeah, so both of those artists are big inspirations. Also, like, I grew up on Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan, so very much like, yeah, that kind of folk, that era of folk. And in terms of like rock influences, Phoebe Bridgers, I love her, she's amazing. And Lucy Dacus, that whole squad of like sapphic folk rock stars were like I always looked up to them, and they're only a couple years older than me, but I like was very much entrenched in Phoebe Bridgers, Lucy Dacus, Julian Bakerland in college, and so that's when I first started kind of writing songs for a bigger band, and all the songs on the album are pretty much full band with pedal steel and drums and bass and stuff, which is definitely feels different than my old stuff.
I would love to hear the old stuff and hear the two contrasts of your work from where you first got your start versus what you have now. You have a latest video, which actually is a short film. It has that Quentin Tarantino-esque feel to it. If folks are familiar with Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, it has that element with the darkness in certain areas, and then there's a certain light to it that is really interesting. Tell us a little bit more about the short film. Now, folks, it's 8 minutes long. Those 8 minutes go by real quickly because you're so enthralled with, oh my God, what happens next?
Yeah. That's a really good way to describe it. The music video / short film is very much a short film. It's very action packed. It was directed by one of my dear friends, Kyle Wright, and Kyle is amazing. He's so talented. He's worked on a bunch of really big film sets. And we've been friends since college, and we've always wanted to do a video together and never really got around to it. And so I showed him my new album, and he was like, oh, we should do some music video now that we're both adults and living in New York and have the time to do that. Barely, but we do. We found some time. And we're at first thinking it was going to be kind of a more artistic, sort of slow burning, very quiet, like music video, just like shot on Super 8, kind of grainy, filmy nostalgia, because that's what the album sort of feels like. Like the easy option would be to do that, right? It's like to sort of accompany the visuals by doing a very poetic, rose tinted, lovely, nostalgic, botanical, type of visual. And I was like, yeah, that sounds wonderful. It'd be cool, and I'd never really done a big music video before, so I was just open to whatever, and I trust his creative vision. And then he listened to the whole album, and he took a couple weeks to listen to it, and he called me up and he's like, Gemma, I have a proposition. Gotta come to my apartment. We're gonna break up on a bottle of wine. I'm gonna pitch you. And I was like, okay. And I was like, is it not what we were talking about? He's like, no. And I was like, okay. And so we go there, crack open a bottle of wine, about to sip, and he was like, mafia film, 1970s, gay. And I'm like, yeah! That would be awesome. And I was just like, I don't know where that would fit on the album. And he was like, Watchdog, right? It's a song about trust. And what better genre of film to explore trust than a mobster film, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wood smoke lingering on our clothes, forgotten on the floor like fallen leaves.
And so then the whole video kind of came from there. He wrote it with his writing partner and also the co-producer, Devin McGrath-Conwell, who's incredible as a writer as well. I mean, everything is like, there's no words in the film. It's like all music. And then we actually composed an original score to go with it. So like after it was filmed, we went back in and composed a score, and I got my band to record these extra parts while watching it on TV and stuff, which was a really cool experience. And so, yeah, it's very much its own like beast now. It's very much like a film that kind of stands alone, but it's to the tune of Watchdog, which is one of the tracks on the album. But it feels so much bigger than that. When like you start with something and then it grows and it grows and it grows, and the more people that get involved, the bigger it gets. And now it's this thing that I'm so proud of. I'm glad that you enjoyed it too.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was like, oh, I want to see another one.
I know, me too.
So how long did it take you guys to film the video?
We actually
with the different scenes.
Yeah, we filmed the whole thing in like 48 hours somehow, which is kind of wild. We were really making those like 12-hour days work. Wow. But it took about 4 months. I mean, the inception of the film happened like maybe September of 2021. So it took like, and now it's October of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So it really took that amount of time to like throw it all together. It took about 4 months of writing, a lot of different drafts going back and forth. And then we finally got around to filming it like late April, early May. 48 hours, boom, 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 boom. All the interior shots were inside Kyle's 1-bedroom apartment in Williamsburg. So we fit like a 30-person cast and crew like into this 1 bedroom. All of his furniture was on the roof. Like, yeah,
Wow.
it was nuts. We had like a full dolly and like hair and makeup in his bedroom, and then like the whole shot happening in the living room, and then we had to like shoot a scene in his bedroom. So we had to move everything out of the bedroom and then go into the into the
That's
living
incredible.
room. It was
That's
a crazy
incredible.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that video. I'm waiting for another short film, probably Adrienne.
Yeah. Ooh, that would be a good one. Yeah.
Probably Adrienne. It's so fun you mentioned earlier how the song is centered around the person's name. Do you think the person towards the end of the video was Adrienne?
Yes. Yeah. So she's the character. The characters in the film, the storyline is essentially like my character's the Don, who's like the kind of, head of the Rat Pack. Feels a little isolated at the top after being this like kind of up and coming scrappy mobster, but it's lonely at the top to be the Don, the head mobster in the game. And so I'm feeling a little like a little jaded, a little tired, a little lonely, and then there's like a death threat, and then I think I get shot at one point. And so before the music video starts, there's this kind of everything's a little shaken. And so then they bring, at least my right-hand man brings in a new bodyguard / character to kind of help me out and secure and protect me. And that's Adrienne. Her name is Adrienne. And so, and then we like kind of consider or size her up a little bit, and then we extend hands and we shake on it. So it's a professional kind of encounter, but then there's this underlying sexual tension. There's sort of a love triangle happening with a consigliere. And a lot of betrayal ensues.
Yes, for folks who hasn't seen it, please go watch the video, which I'm going to include in the clip. It's an amazing. Now, speaking of an amazing experience, you were recently on the Jimmy Kimmel Tonight Show.
Yeah, on Jimmy Fallon. Yes.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
There's so many Jimmys out there. It's very confusing.
My apologies on that. Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's that experience like performing live in front of a live audience?
It was wild. I mean, it was like nothing I'd ever done before. When I got up there, I was just so starstruck. Like, I'd never thought that I would ever in a million years be on TV, let alone on Jimmy Fallon. And like shaking his hand and him acknowledging my presence, I was like, what? And then being in front of this huge crowd, and the cameras everywhere, and I was starstruck. I was honestly so in awe. I'd never thought I'd have an opportunity like that. And then it happened, and suddenly I kind of found myself in this flow. Like, as soon as I started performing on stage, I just wasn't worried anymore. I was so anxious right before I went up. I like thought I was gonna forget my lines and like not sing the song correctly because I only had an hour to write it. And so I was like, oh my God, this is so much pressure. And then as soon as I got up there, that man has this knack for making anybody feel comfortable on stage. Like, he was like, hey, it's Gemma, like, oh, that was great. And we're bantering and we're chatting. Before I know it, I'm bantering with Jimmy Fallon, like on TV. I was like, what's going on here? And then I just kind of slipped into this zone and I performed the song, and then afterwards I just kind of walked out like, I guess I'll just get some dinner now. Like, how do you like proceed from that? Like, what do you do next after you're on the Jimmy Fallon show after never having any like TV experience in your life? And so I just like got sushi with my boyfriend. And I was like, what? What just happened?
That was just an amazing experience, and such pressure to, like you said, having to write the song within a short time.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen it, go to Jimmy Fallon live video, just type in her name. And the song you performed, which I found it hilarious, is it love or is it cake?
Yeah, is it love or is it cake? Who knows?
Who knows? If you don't know the lines in the song, that is what I found very hilarious, is just like a Kit Kat, can't catch my mind a break.
Yeah, I was proud of that one.
yes, and it was just so amazing experience being on stage and performing live. Like you said, it's such a surreal moment in that very second, and once you started performing the song, it's as if you're one of the featured performers performing
Yeah, it really did feel like that. And Norah Jones was playing that night, so now I guess I can be like, I was opening for Norah Jones, ? Like with my song Is It Love?
Kind of, sorta.
And I'm such a Norah Jones fan too. I like briefly saw her like in passing in the hallway, and I was like,
oh my god. That's crazy.
It was crazy. It was a crazy experience. Yeah, like I'm glad that you enjoyed the song too. I think my favorite line was something about a soggy fig Newton at the end. I honestly forgot everything I wrote now. It was just like a blur. What was it? Is it like a soggy fig Newton and I rhymed it with gluten? Because I'm actually gluten intolerant. So at first I'm like, do I write a song about my gluten intolerance? And then I'm like, I don't think anybody wants to know about that. Like,
of course, there's plenty of folks like that.
Who knows? Yeah, maybe I could have done a whole song about my inability to digest cake. Wouldn't be as good as a love song though. But you know, I worked with what I got. So
that's amazing. And with that in mind, as far as your latest songs that you have, your latest album that is coming out, what do you hope your fans and listeners gain from your music, and what message do you want to send out?
That's also, you're full of brilliant questions today.
I'm a music lover, of course.
You really listen to it. I appreciate that. I want, you know, when I grew up and I didn't really know I was queer, I didn't really know who I was, I wish I had more queer artists writing just queer little love songs and songs about growth and friendship and their queer identity and discovering what intimacy looks like to them and vulnerability. And, you know, there's a few different role models I looked up to, but I don't know, I want to be that person for folks. Like, I'm like very out and queer. It took me a long time to come out. I was like 21 when I first came out, but I kind of knew since I was like 13, you know. It was one of those things where I'm like, well, I'm not actually that gay. But yeah, a lot of these songs are really queer coded. Like, even if they're not specifically like, oh, I'm using she, her, or they, them pronouns in it, like about the love interest, it's still very much like the queer temporality. And this is going to sound very like English majory for a second, but it just sort of the songs and how nostalgic they are and how entrenched in the senses they are and how kind of weird they are and existing in this like not totally binary space felt really reminiscent and was very much inspired by like writings from Virginia Woolf and Adrienne Rich and Anne Sexton and so many other like queer poets and queer songwriters and writers, and Sappho, from times past. And yeah, I don't know, I just was looking to those writers specifically, like more than any contemporary like songwriter, those like kind of 20th century queer poets. And I'm like, maybe I should just like, you know, make an album about that that's like super gay and, you know, it's talking about the queer experience, like it's talking about the trans experience too. And like, I'm cis, like my best friend of all time came out, and like Lavender, the title track, is about her and honoring her transition and celebrating that, but also like honoring the hardships that come with that. And so I dedicated the album to her. That song's about her. Other songs are about, you know, different people that I've been with. And I hope that people can listen to it and feel seen, whether they are Lavender, whether they are Adrienne, whether they're the voice that is like yearning after Adrienne. I just want to write songs that people can connect to. And even, you know, people that don't identify as queer, I hope they can connect with the songs in some emotional capacity and feel seen.
Can't they see the restless fugue of pink and blue in your identity? Adrienne, we've been at the bar since 10:30. I think I like you, but I don't know when to let you know.
I'm sure they will, because the universal language that you mentioned is love, regardless of their gender preference, so on and so forth. You know, and what I love about that is one of your songs, Watchdogs, going back to Watchdogs, you mentioned the influence, you mentioned trust. So whether you trust your gut or you trust someone to express your feelings to, that's one of the main things that is the key focus. Now,
Yeah.
segueing over to being a mentor to someone, if you had an opportunity to mentor an emerging artist, what advice would you give them?
Patience, I'd have to say. Be patient, trust the process. It can take a really long time to quote unquote break into music. I'm still getting there, we're all still getting there. It's a very long, slow burning process. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Like I said at the beginning, I've been writing music for years. I've been singing for years, and it took me till I'm 25 now, and now I'm finally putting out my second album and like got signed to a label and that type of stuff, and that it took years to build up to that. And yeah, it takes a long time. So I guess that's the first thing, is to not feel too rushed, like not viewing it as a competition, because it's not. Like, everybody's on their own path. That sounds so corny, but it's true. Like, I used to kind of compare myself to other people a lot as a teenager and in college, and now I still do, but it doesn't really serve anybody, to like look at somebody else's follower count or look at somebody else's social media presence or their streams. Like, it's only what you're doing that matters. Like, and if you believe in your craft and you believe in the process and you feel really excited about what you're doing, just keep doing it, and like, don't quit just because you're not seeing the immediate results.
Right. And that's the thing, a lot of artists expecting to see something immediate, or they're looking for that overnight success, because there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Like, your grind and hustle came along, that that overnight success has been like so long ago.
Yeah.
And now it's like you're coming into fruition. Congratulations, by the way, on your record label that you just signed to. Was it Better Company?
Yeah.
Better Company Records. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
And see, that's the trajectory. Once you have patience, you be kind to yourself. That's another thing, because there's been time when artists felt like, oh, I don't feel like it. I don't know if I'm good enough, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That's something else telling you that you're not good enough. So just be kind and gentle to yourself and have patience. Yeah.
That's such a good, I'm glad you added that, being kind to yourself. I definitely struggle with that a lot. Like, I'm a very self-critical person. I'm always pushing myself to be better and be more, I'm a perfectionist, and it's like, it's tough sometimes, especially as an artist, because you're trying to make the best product possible. You're trying to make really good art, but it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be just right. It's going to be messy. It's going to be art, and there's always going to be somebody with, who's going to be technically more talented than you, and that's okay, and there's always going to be somebody who has more fame than you. That's okay. There's always going to be somebody who has more money than you. That's okay. Like, it's not a race, and it's not a contest. So just be kind to yourself and trust that you'll get there. And even if you don't, you're still doing something you love, and that's why you're in this. Like, most musicians aren't making money for years, like off of anything, and so you have to really be in it because you want to be doing it and it means something to you, and I think that's the most important thing.
Oh, most definitely. Now, here's another fun part. If you had a time machine, and you got a chance to work with 5 of your favorite artists, it could be singer, songwriter, or producers, who would they be?
Ooh, that is such a good question too. Would it be like a superstar all cast, like all-star band, or would it be like individual different singles, like
whoever?
I feel like a lot of my idols are still alive today, which is like kind of cool to think about. Like, if I could get in the studio with Joni Mitchell, like when she was still making music and recording it, because she's definitely taking a break from that now, that would have been a dream. I like wish that somebody asked me one time if I could climb inside the head of anybody in the world, who would it be for a day, and it probably would be Joni Mitchell. Like, she's such an amazing songwriter, and she's got her issues too, but like Blue, the album, I'm like, I wish I could just get inside the brain of the person that wrote Blue. That's such an incredible record. Okay, so I guess she'd be on the list. Bob Dylan would be on the list. So many other folks that I like look up to. I feel like I'm drawing a blank right now, but let me think. Nora Jones is another person. We've been talking about her. I love Nora. Like, I worked, one of my first internships in the music industry was working for this guy who's an amazing manager. His name's Joe D'Ambrosio, and he works with the producers that did Nora Jones, with like Etta James, with a bunch of David Bowie, like all these like really, really big shot producers and mixers who are incredible. And I was just like doing intern stuff, like whatever, like daily tasks and everything. But I learned so much from that process and learned so much about what it meant to manage, and learned a little bit about these producers too. We went to a Grammys event at one point. I think I embarrassed myself gushing to like one of Nora Jones's mixers. I was like 17, was whatever. But yeah, like I think getting a chance to work with Nora would be incredible. Natalie Merchant. But I'm trying to think if I could go back in time, like if there's any really amazing artists that passed away recently. I think to be in the same room as Freddie Mercury would be pretty sick.
Oh, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Love this man's work, his body of work. I think there's a cover band that's in New York City. I can't remember the name of it. A friend of mine mentioned. I was like, oh, you should go see them. They do amazing Queen covers. I was like, oh, that's so funny you mentioned Freddie Mercury. But yes, that would be incredible if you could just get inside his head, and Joni Mitchell and Bob Dylan and so many others. That's just amazing. And last but not least, where can our listeners find you? And also, please plug away. I know you have an album release party coming up.
Yes, I do. Thank you for giving me that. Yeah, we're playing Arlene's Grocery, very iconic venue in New York in the Lower East Side. I've actually never played there before, and we haven't played a show since February in New York. So it'll be a big one. My mom's coming, a bunch of my friends are coming. She's coming all the way from Maine. So yeah, we're playing our album release show on November 4th, Friday, November 4th. Doors at 6:30. There's a bunch of amazing other bands starting. They're at 7 and we're on at 10. But yeah, there's still a couple tickets left, so people can come to that if they want. And then after that, like probably going to try to go on tour at some point in 2023. But you can find all the updates and stuff on my social media channels. My name's Gemma Laurence, spelled with a G, and Lawrence with a U. People get confused because of Jennifer Lawrence.
I saw that. I was like, no, that's not how you spell her name.
Yeah, Gemma Laurence Music on Instagram and Facebook. I'm on Spotify, just as Gemma Laurence. And yeah, the album's gonna be coming out in like a week now, in literally a week, which is crazy. I mean, by the time this is out, it's probably gonna already be out in the world.
Oh, so, most definitely, yes.
Yeah, check it out on Spotify. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has been
sure will. Yes. No, thank you. And thank you so very much, Gemma Laurence, ladies and gentlemen.